Those are our headlines. 자, 그러면 이제부터 하나씩 헤드라인을 살펴보도록 하겠습니다.
The nation's financial regulator has slapped a record fine of 26.5 billion won on BNP Paribas and HSBC for engaging in illegal naked short selling.
금융감독 당국이 불법 무차입 공매도를 한 BNP 파리바 두 개사와 HSBC에 265억 원이라는 역대 최대 규모의 과징금을 부과했습니다. Okay, so let's have a look at this story.
Yes.
What are we looking at?
Okay, first of all, I want to reassure everyone clothes were kept on. Naked short selling is the practice of short selling without first borrowing shares. So that's what we're talking about here, and it's illegal. And it's the largest fine we've had against financial companies since there's been this introduction of penalties for violating short selling restrictions in 2021. So it's a big deal. The Securities and Futures Commission has said it's also decided to refer these two global investment banks to prosecutors for violating these restrictions. When we look at PNB Paribas' Hong Kong unit, they submitted naked short selling orders worth around 40 billion won for 101 different stocks. And HSBC has allegedly placed naked short selling orders worth about 16 billion won for 9 Korean stocks.
자, 이제 금융감독 당국이요. 맨 처음에 제가 발음이 잘 안 됐어가지고.
네, 어려워요.
금융감독 당국이 이제 그 국내 주식 시장에서 이제 불법 행위를 한 세 곳에 대해서 아주 그 큰 금액의 역대 최고죠. 265억 원이 넘는 그런 과징금을 매겼습니다. 여기서 말하는 naked short selling, 또 다른 말로 naked shorting이라고도 하는데요. 이게 무차입 공매도입니다. traditional short selling or shorting, 그냥 공매도라면은 여기서 naked는 이제 차입을 하지 않고 공매도를 하는 것을 이렇게 그 경제 용어에서 표현을 하는 것이고요. 아까 선생님이 그 다른 의미의 naked는 아니다.
네.
보통 우리가 말하는 naked는 옷을 안 입었다라는 뜻이지만 그 의미가 아닙니다. 여기서는요. 자, 그래서 이런 불법 공매도를 한 글로벌 투자은행 두 곳, 그 다음에 그 공매도 주문을 받은 이제 국내 그런 수탁 증권사도 있을 거 아니에요. 이렇게 해가지고 총 세 곳에 대해서 역대 그런 최대 금액의 과징금을 매기게 됐습니다. Alright, let's have a look at the first expression here. 제가 지금 과징금을 매겼다 이렇게 말했는데요. 영어로는 to slap a fine이라고 하죠.
Yes, for me it makes me think of the makjang dramas. You know, the big soap operas,
slap.
the kimchi slap or the slap on the face.
Yeah.
You know, you'll see in many soap operas when lovers may quarrel, somebody might slap someone else, meaning you hit them with an open palm.
Yep.
That is a slap. So it's a forceful hit. It's something painful, but we also use it for fines. To be slapped with a fine or slapped with a penalty means you've been hit with it, meaning it's forceful, it's big, it has an impact.
Absolutely. 우리가 보통 드라마 속에서나 영화 속에서 slap 한다라고 하면은 이렇게 뺨을 때리는 것을 말합니다. 그렇지만 돈 아니면 특히 여기서 벌금이나 과징금과 같이 쓰였을 때는요, 그것을 부과한다라는 뜻이 돼요. 그래서 벌금을 부과했다. 그 다음에는 to engage in something.
Yeah, to engage in something means to take part in it, to do it, to be a part of it. In this case, they were doing illegal naked short selling. So the official term here is engaging in it.
engage in something이라는 것은요, 어딘가에 종사하다도 될 수 있고요. 자, 무언가를 행동을 하다, 참여하다, 관여하다라는 의미도 됩니다. In this case, we're talking about engaging in illegal short selling.
네.
불법 공매도를 한 것을, 관여한 것을 말하고 있죠. 자, 그러면 다시 한번 헤드라인 읽어보겠습니다. The nation's financial regulator has slapped a record fine of 26.5 billion won on BNP Paribas and HSBC for engaging in illegal naked short selling. Let's move on to the second headline.
An explosion at a nickel plant on Indonesia's Sulawesi island has killed at least 13 workers and injured dozens of others.
인도네시아 술라웨시 섬의 니켈 재련소에서 폭발 사고가 발생해 최소 13명이 숨지고 그 외 수십 명이 다쳤습니다. Tell us more.
It's a Chinese-funded plant, and actually 5 Chinese nationals died. 8 were Indonesian. And what happened was they were doing repair work on a furnace, and some flammable liquid ignited, and that caused oxygen tanks to explode, and unfortunately led to these deaths and also dozens injured. Indonesia is a country that's producing a lot of nickel. It's the top producer of nickel. And nickel is used in a lot of things we need nowadays, electric car batteries and stainless steel. It's a valuable resource. It's a resource needed. And so China's been trying to grow its electric car industry and therefore is sort of investing in these nickel plants. Sadly, it's not the first time we've seen injuries and death at facilities in Indonesia this year. Earlier in January, 2 workers were killed at a plant in Indonesia after a riot broke out after protesting. In June, there was a fire at that same plant, killing 1 worker and injuring 6 others. So there's a lot of concern over safety at these kind of facilities in Indonesia. And, well, hopefully we won't see this kind of accident happen again.
네, 인명피해부터 좀 보자면은요. 13 staff라고 했습니다. 13명의 직원이 사망을 했다고 하는데요. 그중에 8명이 이제 인도네시아 국적이었다고 하고 5명은 중국 국적이었다고 해요. 이 plant, 이 공장 같은 경우에는 사실 이제 중국에서 운영을 하는 그런 재련소입니다. 왜 중국에서 운영을 하냐면 특히 인도네시아 같은 경우에는 니켈 산업을 좀 더 키우기 위해서 수출을 안 하고 있어요. 수출 금지 정책이 내려져 있는데 그러다 보니까 중국계 기업이 인도네시아에 들어가서 투자를 하고 거기서 재련소를 운영을 하고 있는 그런 상황입니다. 자, 그런데 이런 사고가 일어났어요. 첫 번째로 우리가 볼 표현이 nickel인데요. 그 전기자동차 배터리에서도 쓰이고 스테인리스 스틸 만드는 데도 쓰이는 nickel.
Yes, and our pronunciation in English is nickel, so the emphasis is on the first syllable.
Right.
Also, if you go into the United States, you'll hear the word nickel used a lot because it means 5 cents. It's the 5-cent coin. I once lent 5 cents to an American rock group. Unfortunately, I never got my nickel back.
Nickelback. 미국에서 니켈이라고 하면은 물론 지금 우리가 말하고 있는 이 금속 니켈이 될 수도 있지만 5센트를 뜻하는 또 다른 단어, 그러니까 니켈이군요. Nickelback라는 가수인가요, 아니면 그룹인가요?
It's a group. It's a rock, American rock group.
그룹이죠.
Yeah.
그러면 제가 잘 들어본 것도 같고 안 들어본 것도 같고. Nickelback. 거기서의 니켈은 뭐 어떤 뜻인지는 잘 모르겠지만 그룹 이름에도 들어가네요. 자, 발음 주의하시면 되겠습니다. 우리는 니켈 하지만 영어로는 nickel 이렇게 발음한다는 거. 자, 그 다음에는 부상자가 상당히 많이 나왔어요. Dozens of others injured.
Yes, so dozens means multiples of 12. It's a curious thing about English is that often we're counting in tens, groups of tens, but rather than say tens of others, we say dozens of others.
Yeah, you never say tens of others.
Yeah, but dozen is certainly in Europe is a number that's used a lot in terms of counting for people or for products. For example, you buy a dozen eggs, or we talk about going to a bakery to buy a dozen rolls, for example.
Right.
So this is a very common expression to use dozens of something, meaning multiples of 12 of something, meaning less than 100, but still a lot.
네. 왜 그런지는 모르겠지만 이렇게 부상자 얘기를 한다든지 뭐 수십 명이 이랬다 이럴 때는 꼭 12명 단위로 나누는 dozens를 써요. tens of라는 표현이 영어에 존재하지만 이 경우에는 쓰지 않습니다. 그래서 there are tens of wounded people 이렇게 하지 않죠.
Yeah, you could. You grammatically speaking, you could say that, but we don't. We do say hundreds or thousands, but we don't necessarily say tens. We'll say dozens instead.
그래요. 그래서 이런 경우에는 dozens of people have been injured. 이렇게 표현을 하고 우리말로는 그렇다고 해서 뭐 12명의 배수 이렇게 해석할 수는 없으니까 그냥 몇십 명 이렇게 해석을 하면 되겠습니다. 그러나 엄밀히 따졌을 때 dozens의 dozen은 12이다. 기억하시면 되겠습니다. Here's the headline again. An explosion at a nickel plant on Indonesia's Sulawesi Island has killed at least 13 workers and injured dozens of others.
China's capital, Beijing, has broken its record for hours of sub-zero temperatures in December, dating back to 1951, after a cold wave swept swathes of the country and sent temperatures towards historic lows.
중국 전역에 한파가 몰아닥쳐 각지의 기온이 기록적인 수준까지 내려간 가운데 수도 베이징이 1951년 이후 72년 만에 12월 최장 한파 기록을 경신했습니다. So it's freezing in Beijing.
It is. They've had record-breaking chills over the past week. Some areas in the northeast of China hitting minus 40 Celsius.
Oh my goodness.
Very, very cold. And even below that, they've had this biting cold air flowing down from the Arctic. And as of Sunday, a weather observatory in Beijing recorded more than 300 hours of below-freezing temperatures since December the 11th. That's the most they've had since the records began in 1951. Beijing has had 9 consecutive days of temperatures below minus 10. Well, there's lots of problems in the city. We've got boilers breaking down. Some areas in urgent need of more heat supply. So people are literally freezing because it's far, far, far too cold. The city is suspending heat supply for most businesses except for essential providers. However, residential compounds are also going to be affected during this period. Here's hoping it warms up in Beijing because everyone's, well, going to be wrapped up in blankets and trying to stay warm.
아우, 그러게 말이에요. 수도 베이징에서 기상 관측소에서 이렇게 얘기를 하더라고요. 이제 12월 11일 날 기온이 0도 이하로 떨어졌고 그 이후로 300시간 넘게 영하권을 유지했다. 그리고 이제 0도 이상으로 뭐 일부 지역은 또 오르기도 했지만 말씀하신 것처럼 뭐 마이너스 40까지 내려간 지역도 있다고요. 네, 어마어마하게 추운 이 한파가 또 오랫동안 이어지는 그런 최장 한파 기록이 이번에 72년 만에 또 세워졌다고 해요. 그만큼 참 고생일 텐데 표현 보겠습니다. The capital Beijing has broken its record.
Yes, if you break a record, well, you're either going to be the best or have the most or be the highest or the lowest. In this case, it's the lowest temperatures ever for December. So when we break a record, it's more than ever before or less than ever before, whatever it may be.
Break a record, 기록을 깨다. Set a record, 기록을 세우다.
네.
어떻게 쓰느냐에 따라 이 같은 스토리를 그 두 표현 사용해서 다 쓸 수도 있고요. We're looking at sub-zero temperatures.
Yes, meaning below zero.
Yep.
Sub is when we use it as a prefix. If you think of submarine, below the water. Sub-zero, below zero.
그래요. Sub-zero는 0 이하라는 뜻이 있어서 영하가 되겠습니다.
네.
Submarine은 물 아래라는 뜻이기 때문에 그래서 이제 잠수함인데 이제 물 안에 있는 marine.
It's in water.
배
Yeah,
같은, 예,
yeah. So we have
submarine.
subway as well, meaning
그러네요.
it's the underground train.
네. 근데 이제 subway 하나하나 직역을 하려다 보니까 제가 좀 막히네요. 근데 어쨌든 우리가 subway가 뭔지 알잖아요. 지하철인데
네.
예, 그 way 길 아래 sub 예, 이렇게 보시면 될 것
What about
같습니다.
subjectsu?
No, that doesn't occur. Doesn't.
No, that's
doesn't
different.
work
That's
there. Yeah,
different.
exactly. Subject의 sub는 다릅니다. 자, sub-zero temperatures 영하의 기온이 되겠고요. 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. China's capital Beijing has broken its record for hours of sub-zero temperatures in December, dating back to 1951, after a cold wave swept swathes of the country and sent temperatures towards historic lows.
Atlanta, Georgia, has been returned to the owner's daughter after 65 years.
How incredible. 미국 조지아주 애틀랜타의 영화관 화장실 벽 뒤에서 발견된 지갑 하나가 분실된 지 65년 만에 원주인의 딸에게 돌아갔습니다. 자, 이게 이제 화장실 벽 뒤라고 하잖아요. 그러니까 지금 이제 레노베이션을 위해서 화장실 벽을 허문 겁니다.
네.
봤더니 아니 벽 안에 지갑이 있어요.
Yeah.
애초에 이 화장실 공사를 했을 때 정리를 안 하고 그냥 벽을 이렇게 붙이셨나 봐요. 타일 같은 것들을. 어떻게 이런 분실물이 그 안에
It's
있었을까?
hard to know, but that's where it was, in this little hidden space behind a crumbled wall. And the wallet was intact. It had a raffle ticket to win a new 1959 car. Had credit cards without magnetic strips showing how old they were, and also black and white family photos. And the good thing was, because it had so much in it, the theatre owner said it was a great starting point to find the family, because it was chock full of history. And there was a license in the wallet, and the owner was Floyd Culbreth, and they were able to track down her daughter, Thea Chamberlain. And in fact, Chamberlain had some of her own belongings in the wallet.
Yeah.
They were still remaining in there. She's 71, and she was only 6 years old when the wallet was lost.
Exactly.
So it's a remarkable story, and what a piece of history and what a piece of memory to be returned to the daughter.
네. 그 애틀랜타시의 아주 대표적인 극장이라고 해요. 굉장히 오랫동안 이 지역의 어떤 상징적인 건물이 되어 온 그런 시어터인데 최근에 레노베이션을 위해서 타일을 좀 깨고 허물다 보니까 아니 그 뒤에 색깔도 굉장히 화려하거든요. 버건디, 자주색, 약간 빨간 지갑이 있는 거예요. 근데 그냥 지갑이 있는 게 아니라 지갑 안에는 raffle 티켓은 뭐냐면은 추첨하는 티켓이에요. 그래서 우승을 하면은 쉐브롤레 자동차 당첨이 되는 그런 raffle 티켓가 있었고 그 다음에는 가족 사진, 아이디도 있고. 근데 문제는 뭐냐면은 이제 플로이 컬브레스는 결혼하고 나서 남편의 성을 딴 거였어요. 그래서 처음에는 이 플로이 컬브레스가 누군지 찾기가 쉽지 않았대요. 외국에서는 자신의 maiden name, 결혼하기 전에 있는 이름을 쓰지 않잖아요. 결혼하고 나면. 그렇지만 결국은 인터넷이 참 좋아요. 인터넷으로 이렇게 소셜미디어에 서칭을 하고 하다 보니까 플로이 컬브레스 원 주인 이분은 이제 돌아가셨지만 가족을 추적할 수 있었어요. 그래서 그 딸 지금은 71세입니다. 딸을 이제 찾아서 어머니의 지갑을 찾은 것 같습니다. 한번 확인해 보시겠어요? 맞네. 그때 내가 6살이었는데, 내가 의사 선생님 만나기로 한 그 doctor's appointment card 이런 것도 다 들어있고 우리 엄마 거 맞아요. 이렇게 밝혔답니다. 정말 신기하고 또 반갑고 그랬을 것 같아요.
Yeah, it's like when you find a 10,001 note in a coat you haven't worn for 3 years.
Right, exactly. So they found this in a cinema.
Yes, if you're in the UK or Australia, you'll be very familiar with the word cinema because it's what we call our movie theatres.
Sure.
And quite frankly, I prefer the word cinema because there's no confusion. If you say to an American, I'm going to the theatre, well, are you going to see a play, a musical, or are you going to see a movie? Whereas in the UK, we say cinema for movies and the theatre for plays and musicals.
That's right. 영화를 보러 갈 때 쓸 수 있는 표현이 여러 가지가 있습니다. 그 중에 하나가 go to the cinema이고요. 그 다음에 이제 go to the movies 이렇게 표현하기도 하는데 좀 더 긴 버전으로는 movie theater.
네.
theater가 연극을 보는 무대가 될 수도 있지만 영화관이 될 수도 있어요. 어떤 때는 I'm going to the theater 이렇게 말하면서 이제 영화관인지 연극 무대인지 좀 헷갈리지만 그렇게 말하기도 합니다. 그때는 맥락에 맞게 해석을 하시면 되겠고요. 그 다음에는 this wallet, 이 지갑이 it was returned to the daughter.
Yeah, meaning it was given back. If you return something to someone, you give it back to them. And you can also use it when you're talking about something. You can return to a subject, meaning you go back to talking about it.
네, 어디로 돌아간다라는 뜻이 있는데 여기서는 지갑이 원주인의 딸에게 돌아갔다라는 의미가 되겠습니다.
Yeah, do you want to return to the original headline now?
Let's do that. 자, returning to the original headline 다시 읽어보겠습니다. A wallet found behind a bathroom wall at a cinema in Atlanta, Georgia, has been returned to the owner's daughter after 65 years. Now let's
Korea's largest online marketplace has reported that sales of pet strollers exceeded those of baby strollers for the first time ever this year.
국내 최대 오픈마켓의 조사 결과에 따르면 올해 반려동물용 유모차 판매량이 사상 처음으로 유아용 유모차를 넘어선 것으로 나타났습니다. So a couple of things we can get from this. The first is that less and less people are having babies.
Yes.
More and more people are having pets.
And wanting to push them around in style.
Yes. Tell us about that.
So we've got data for the first 3 quarters of this year from this company. And pet strollers are 57% of those sales. Baby strollers, 43%, which is a big change. For example, 2021, we had 33% were pet carriages, and then 2022, 36% were pet carriages. That was 67% for babies in 2021 and 64% for babies in 2022. So we're seeing this sharp decrease in baby stroller sales and a sharp increase in pet stroller sales.
네.
And as you said, it's all about families choosing to spend money on pets and the fact that Korea's birth rate is still declining.
그렇죠. 이제 갈수록 지금 이 저출산 현실이 진짜 그냥 현 주소입니다. 이걸 우리가 그냥 받아들여야 하는 것 같아요. 물론 이제 더 이제 출산을 장려하는 여러 가지 정책들도 나오겠지만 현재는 그렇습니다. 갈수록 아이들은 낳지 않고 그 대신에 이제 반려동물을 키우는 가정은 늘어나고 있는 것을 한편으로도 볼 수 있고 반려동물을 이렇게 유모차에 끌고 그다음에 아기 뭐 고양이나 강아지나 뭐 이런 반려동물을 태우고 다니는 분들도 주변에 보셨을 것 같아요. 그래서 이 오픈마켓의 그 G사입니다. 그 오픈마켓의 어떤 그 조사 결과를 보면은 올해 1분기에서 3분기 동안에 이 유모차 판매량을 비교해 본 거예요. 그래서 이거를 이제 100점이 만점이라고 본다면 만점이 아니라 저기 100% 중에서 이렇게 얼마나 팔렸는지 이렇게 그 저기 converting the rate
네.
수치를 변환을 해봤더니 반려동물 유모차 같은 경우에는요 올해는 57% 또 유아용 유모차는 43% 팔렸다. 그러니까 전체 두 카테고리의 합계 판매량을 100으로 놓고 본 겁니다. 근데 이걸 3년 동안 이렇게 쭉 데이터를 비교해 보면은 작년에는 반려동물용 유모차 36% 그리고 아기용 유모차는 64%. 뭐 당연히 유아용이 훨씬 더 많았어요.
Yeah.
그 전에도 마찬가지고 아기 그 유아용은 67%, 동물용은 33%였는데 올해는 역전이 됐습니다. So we're seeing way more people using prams or push chairs or what's the word? Strollers, that's right, for animals. Let's have a look at the first expression, marketplace.
Yes, the marketplace is where the market is held. You have permanent marketplaces, or like in Korean tradition, you have temporary marketplaces. I love the 5-day markets tradition in Korea. Yeah, I love the idea of these sort of these itinerant markets moving from town to town and town, round and round and round. You can also have an online marketplace, like in this case, where you buy something online. So we talk about the marketplaces where you buy things because the marketplace traditionally, instead of stores and shops, we had stalls.
네, 여기서 말하는 온라인 마켓플레이스가 이 조사를 실시한 그 온라인 마켓입니다. 자, 그다음에는 exceed something.
That means it's more than something else. If A exceeds B, there's more of A than there is B.
그렇죠. exceed something, 뭔가를 초과하다, 넘다. 자, 그럼 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. Korea's largest online marketplace has reported that sales of pet strollers exceeded those of baby strollers for the first time ever this year. That's it for our headlines. 무모한 문장 다시 알려드릴게요. Today, let's have a closer look at those one by one. This is our first headline.
The population of those in their 40s in Korea slipped by the most in 4 years and 3 months in November, and the number of employed people in their 40s marked the lowest monthly figure in 20 years.
지난 11월 기준 국내 40대 인구가 4년 3개월 만에 가장 큰 폭으로 감소했으며 40대 취업자 수는 20년 만에 최저 수준을 기록했습니다. Right, so let's have a look at the stats then.
Right, so this is according to data from Statistics Korea that was released on Tuesday. We're seeing a huge decline in the number of those in their 40s. That includes me.
And me.
Right, as well as those who are employed that are in their 40s. So they said that the number of people in their 40s declined by 139,000 year on year. It was the biggest fall in over 4 years, and it was the second largest fall after in terms of the age groups, in terms after youth, so people aged 15 to 29, and the number of working people in their 40s also decreased by 62,000 on year, and that was the lowest in 2 decades since 2003.
Wow.
And this is, of course, worrisome news because, this age group, the 40s, it's the most economically active. But the decline in people in their 40s, it was predicted as the second wave of baby boomers born between 1968 and 1974 have now entered their 50s.
그러니까 이제 40대 인구가요, 청년층 다음으로 가장 많이 줄어든 것으로 지난 11월 통계 기준이고요. 이게 전년 대비 이렇습니다. 근데 이제 그 계속해서 해마다 11월 달에 수치를 이렇게 쭉 보게 되면은 아까 4년 만이라고 했나요? 4년 3개월 만에
Yes.
이제 가장 큰 폭으로 40대 인구가 줄어들었고, 그다음에 이 40대 중에서 일을 하고 있는 people employed in their 40s 그 인구 역시 굉장히 많이 줄어들었다. 예상이 어느 정도 되기는 했었지만 이제 경제적으로 활동을 한참 활발히 해야 될 이 40대 숫자가 줄어들었다라는 것은 국가적으로도 걱정이 아닐 수 없습니다. As you said, it is a worrisome thing for the country in terms of the overall economy. Let's have a look at the main expressions. The number of people in their 40s has slipped.
Right. So slipped, it's a bit of I guess it's a casual term that we use to describe something that declines or to fall or decline, as in the number. So when we're saying that the population has slipped, we're saying the population has decreased.
The population has 미끄러졌다, slipped. 네, 이건 이제 감소했다라는 뜻으로 쓸 수 있는 동사고요. In English, there are tons of verbs you can use to talk about numbers dropping.
Yeah.
And this is one of them. The next one is monthly figure.
Right. Monthly figure, it's just the value or amount that they produce or they release once a month. So when we're talking about the monthly figure here, this figure is probably released every month, but they're using this figure for November.
그렇죠. 지금 해당 데이터는 11월에 대한 것입니다. 그래서 monthly, 이 달에 해당되는 figure, 수치다라고 보시면 되겠죠. Let's have a look at the headline again. The population of those in their 40s in Korea slipped by the most in 4 years and 3 months in November, and the number of employed people in their 40s marked the lowest monthly figure in 20 years. Now let's move on to the next headline.
A recent survey indicates that 6 out of 10 Koreans are content with their leisure life, marking the highest satisfaction rate since 2012, while the average monthly expenditure on leisure activities is around 200,000 won.
최근 조사에서 국민 10명 중 6명이 여가 생활에 만족한다고 답변해 2012년 이후 가장 높은 만족도를 보인 한편 월 평균 여가 지출 비용은 20만 원 선인 것으로 나타났습니다. I wonder if our listeners are content with their leisure life. 여러분의 여가 생활에는 만족하고 계신가요? 지금까지 나온 데이터 중에서는 이번에 굉장히 높은 수준이었다라고 하는데 tell us more.
Yeah, so this is according to the results of a survey that was released by the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism and the Korea Culture and Tourism Organization. And they conducted this survey among 10,400 just general citizens that were aged above 15 and older nationwide for a year. So it's a pretty comprehensive survey. And they said that the percentage of those that were satisfied with their leisure life increased by 4.1 percentage points from last year, and it was the highest on record since 2012. And the survey results also showed that people spent an average of 201,000 won on leisure expenses per month, and that was up 25,000 won from the previous year. And those who considered their leisure expenses to be adequate were also found to be 271,000 won, up 32,000 won from the previous year. And the proportion of leisure activities with family also increased from 33.5% 25% to 34%, and the proportion of leisure activities with friends increased from 12.4% to 13.2%, which was largely influenced by, of course, with the lifting of social distancing
Right.
in April last year.
사회적 거리두기가 해제되면서 the lifting of social distancing 그로 인해서 이제 여가 활동도 더 많이 가족과 친구들과 하게 된 것 같고요. 그다음에는 지금 이게 한 1년에 걸쳐서 실시된 조사군요.
Yeah.
The survey was conducted over a period of roughly a year from August 2022 to the end of July 2023. And overall, we're seeing an increase in the number of people that say, I'm happy with my
Yeah.
leisure life.
So I wondered, what are Korean citizens, just average Korean citizens over the age of 15, consider as leisure?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they said that for leisure, the people that answered, as leisure, the most people responded. 89.4% said that just resting.
Okay.
That was considered leisure. And then they also said participation in sports and participation in tourism.
아, 그렇군요. 여기서 말하는 여가 생활이라는 게 쉬는 것도 포함이 되어 있고요. 그다음에는 스포츠 활동이나 관광처럼 어디 이제 가서 우리가 뭐 관광지가 아니더라도
Yeah.
어쨌든 어떤 이제
touring or
외출을
sightseeing.
그렇죠.
Yeah.
네, 그런 것들도 여기 안에 포함이 되었다고 하는데요. 가장 많은 사람들이 하는 여가 생활은 relaxing, resting,
Yeah.
쉬는 것이다. 근데 그것에 대한 전반적인 만족도가 어쨌든 올랐다라는 기쁜 소식이고요. 자, 첫 번째 표현 보도록 하겠습니다. A lot of people are content.
Right. If you're content with something, it means you are pleased and satisfied with something. You could also say you're happy with something as
Yeah.
well.
You have to be careful of the stress on this word. If you say content,
Yeah.
then you're talking about something very, very different.
Right.
우리가 흔히 말하는 컨텐츠가 영어로는 content. 근데 여기서는요, 강세가 content. 뒤쪽에 있습니다. 그래서 만족한다라는 뜻이고, another word would just be to be happy.
To be happy,
Yeah,
satisfied.
To be
yeah.
satisfied, yep. What about expenditure?
Right. Expenditure is the spending of money on something or the money that is spent on something. So, for example, our expenditure on food increased for this month because we hosted a few dinner parties at home.
expenditure라는 것은 비용, 지출 이런 뜻이 있어서요. 집에서 디너 파티를 여러 번 열었더니 이번 달에 우리가 이제 음식에 쓴 비용이 많이 들었다.
Yeah. When we invite guests over, definitely our expenditure, our spending
Yes.
on food will definitely increase.
Of course. Well, here's the headline again. A recent survey indicates that 6 out of 10 Koreans are content with their leisure life, marking the highest satisfaction rate since 2012, while the average monthly expenditure on leisure activities is around 200,000 won.
Google is reportedly considering a substantial downsizing of around 30,000 employees, a move attributed to the company's increasing dependence on artificial intelligence, which can now automate tasks traditionally done by humans.
구글이 약 3만 명 규모의 대대적인 감원 방안을 검토 중인 것으로 알려졌습니다. 이는 사람이 하던 기존 업무를 현재는 AI를 통해 자동화할 수 있는 부분이 커지게 된 데 따른 것입니다. More and more people are being, I suppose, switched over by AI.
Since I work also as a translator, interpreter, we've been talking about this issue for a very long time in the interpreting world. When will we be replaced by machines, by AI? Because we've been able to witness firsthand how fast they've been able to progress, improve. It's just Google Translate. It's so much better than it was before. Just maybe
It's
a
not
couple of years
perfect,
ago. It's
though.
not perfect, but the improvements you can
Yes.
see it.
Yeah.
So, and it looks like that's what's happening, I guess, even for technicians and people working at Google. So, if this is confirmed, it's going to be a significant shift in the labor dynamics at, I guess, one one of the leading tech giants in the world, and it also emphasizes the escalating influence of AI on corporate strategies and employment markets. So,
Right.
we talk about this all the time, especially with kids, with the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah.
What are we going to do in the next 10 years? So these reports, they've instigated a wave of apprehension, no wonder, among Google's workforce, raising questions about job security in an era of rapid technological advancements. And this isn't just about Google either. It's kind of a broader debate that's been brought about the impact of AI on employment across multiple sectors, not just the tech sector.
Exactly. 이렇게 3만 명이나 정리해고를 할 수도 있다라는 얘기가 나오니까 당연히 걱정이 많이 되겠죠. A wave of apprehension이라고 아까 표현을 해주셨는데 apprehension이 이런 우려라고 보시면 되겠고요.
Yeah.
걱정. 그것이 파도처럼 밀려오고 있다. Now the word to look at first here is downsizing.
Right. Downsizing it's exactly what it's showing. Down means to decrease. Size is to basically, make the size smaller, make something decrease in size. So when we're talking about a company downsizing, we're usually talking about layoffs, people getting laid off from work. So here, downsizing about 30,000 employees, we're saying they're getting released from Google, and Google is planning on decreasing the size of its company.
Downsizing is one word. 규모를 줄인다는 뜻인데요. 여기서는 인원이 삭감된다, 정리해고의 의미로 보시면 되겠고, 그다음에 traditionally something.
Yeah, traditionally means typically. So traditionally as part of a long established custom or practice or belief in a way that's based on a particular tradition. So we use this a lot. For example, Koreans traditionally eat rice cake soup or 떡국 on New Year's Day.
그렇죠. 한국 사람이라면은 보통 설날에 떡국을 먹는다. Traditionally는 전통적으로 뭐뭐 한다라는 뜻이 있는데, 자, 여기서 이제 뉴스에서 봤을 때는 보통는 사람이 했던 일, 예전엔 전통적으로 사람이 했던 일을 AI가 이제 할 수 있게 됨으로 인해서 이렇게 인원이 많이 삭감될 것으로 보여진다. 이런 얘기가 되겠습니다. Here's the headline again. Google is reportedly considering a substantial downsizing of around 30,000 employees, a move attributed to the company's increasing dependence on artificial intelligence, which can now automate tasks traditionally done by humans. Here's our next headline.
A U.S. airline company has apologized to the family of an unaccompanied 6-year-old child who was supposed to fly from Philadelphia to Fort Myers, Florida to visit his grandmother, but was instead incorrectly put on a flight to Orlando.
할머니를 만나기 위해 혼자서 미국 필라델피아를 출발해 플로리다주 포트 마이어스로 가는 비행기를 타기로 예정돼 있었던 6살 어린이가 실은 올란도행 비행기에 잘못 탑승하게 된 데 대해 해당 항공사가 어린이의 가족 측에 사과했습니다. 네, 어떻게 된 건지 좀 상세히 좀 들어볼게요.
Yeah,
What happened?
It sounds like a holiday horror story to me. A real life Home Alone,
Yeah.
except the child was flying alone.
That's right.
So this child was supposed to fly from Philadelphia International Airport to Southwest Florida International Airport in Fort Myers, Florida. He was flying unaccompanied or solo or alone to meet his grandmother at the airport at Fort Myers. But instead, the child was incorrectly boarded on a different plane that was headed to Orlando, which is about 160 miles or about 257 kilometers away. So the grandmother who was supposed to pick him up from the airport realized that he wasn't on the plane. She panicked. She got a call from her grandson after he landed in Orlando. And she said, wait there. She drove over to Orlando, picked him up. And, of course, she complained about this. And
Sure.
the airline has apologized. They've offered to reimburse them for the drive. But more importantly, she's asking, why did this happen?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And they haven't given her a clear answer yet. They say that they are conducting an internal investigation to find out what happened.
네. 그러니까 필라델피아에서 원래는 플로리다주에 있는 포트 마이어즈까지 거의 3시간 비행이거든요. 이 비행기를 원래 탑승해야 했었어요. 이제 마이너 미성년자이다 보니까 보통 이런 경우에는 플라이트 어텐던트 한 명이
Yeah.
딱 붙어서
Yeah.
처음부터 끝까지 이렇게 동행을 해주고
chauffeur
케어를 해주죠.
them, yep.
네, 그렇게 해줍니다. 그런데요. 아이가 뭘 알겠어요. 그리고 뭐 티켓을 봐도 뭐 이렇게 뭐 잘못됐는지 뭔지 그런 건 잘 모르겠죠. 근데 플로리다 안에 있는 포트 마이어즈가 아닌 한 250km 떨어진
Yeah.
올랜도로 가는 비행기에 잘못 탔습니다.
Maybe he wanted to go to Disney World. I don't know.
Who knows?
I mean, he called his grandma, said, "Hey, I'm in Orlando."
그래요. 그래서 이제 이 손주가 일단은 플로리다에 있는 올랜도에 도착을 해가지고 할머니한테 전화를 뭐 한 모양이죠. 할머니가 나 공항 나와 있는데 너 어딨니? 그래서 저도 공항인데요. 알고 보니까 이렇게
It's
좀
the
멀리
wrong airport.
전혀
Yep.
다른 공항으로 가게
Yep.
된 겁니다. 그래서 정말 아찔했을 것 같아요.
Of
그렇지만
course.
이제 결국은 할머니가 운전해가지고 손자를 잘 픽업을 해서 만나긴 했지만 항공사에다가 어떻게 된 거냐?
Yeah, what's going on?
딱 이게 경로가 정해져 있는데 제대로 태웠어야지. 왜 이런 일이 발생하냐? 그래서 항공사에서 사과를 했답니다. 자, 한번 표현 볼게요. The boy was traveling unaccompanied.
Right, unaccompanied. So here, he was traveling without his parents. And that's what it means. So he didn't have any companion or an escort. When we talk about unaccompanied music,
It's a hard one to pronounce,
yes,
isn't it?
it is hard to pronounce. We often use this for music, so
Yeah.
it's something that's sung or played without instrumental accompaniment.
Exactly. Accompaniment,는 반주입니다. 그래서 unaccompanied라고 하면은 무반주로라는 뜻이고 음악에서는 그렇고요. 이제 우리가 동행을 하다라는 뜻으로도 be accompanied by 누구누구 그러면 누가 같이 간다는 뜻이지만 be unaccompanied면 아무도 동행을 하는 사람이 없다. 자, 여기서는 이 아이가 부모 없이 가족 없이 갔다라는 의미이기 때문에 unaccompanied를 썼고요. 그러나 이제 flight attendant가 항시 붙어 다녀야 되는 그런 시스템이긴 하죠.
Yep.
거기서는 이제 가족이 아니기 때문에 여기서 그래도 unaccompanied 쓸 수 있는데 the boy incorrectly was put on this wrong flight.
That's right. So incorrectly means in a mistaken way or wrongly or not in accordance with particular standards or rules.
incorrectly 잘못해서 틀리게라는 뜻이 되겠습니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. A U.S. airline company has apologized to the family of an unaccompanied 6-year-old child who was supposed to fly from Philadelphia to Fort Myers, Florida, to visit his grandmother, but was instead incorrectly put on a flight to Orlando. Let's main.
A new study has revealed that people who have a tendency to stay up late are at greater risk of experiencing artery calcification compared to those who wake up early.
밤늦게까지 깨어있는 사람이 아침에 일찍 일어나는 사람보다 관상동맥 석회화 위험이 높다는 연구 결과가 나왔습니다. 저녁형 인간 그리고 또 뭐 우리가 아침형 인간 이렇게 얘기를 하는데 이 경우에는 저녁형 뭐 이렇게 올빼미족
Yeah.
같은 경우에 조금 심장 쪽 질환을 조심해야 되는 것 같네요.
That's right.
Tell us more.
So night owls, the people who like to stay up late, usually wake up later as well. They say that they're nearly twice as likely to experience artery calcification compared to those who wake up early. So artery calcification is a condition where fatty deposits build up inside your arteries. That makes it difficult for blood to flow. And this develops slowly and it often goes unnoticed until it leads to serious issues like heart attacks or strokes, which is why it's very dangerous.
Oh dear.
So this study found that those who identified themselves as extreme morning types or your 아침형 인간 or extreme morning types, they had the lowest proportion of pronounced artery calcification, whereas the opposite was the opposite case. So people who found themselves to be or identified themselves as the extreme night owls, they found the highest. There was a big difference in the percentages there.
Interesting. 자, 여기서 말하는 artery calcification 바로 표현으로 가보죠. 계속 언급이 되고 있는데 artery는 동맥이고 석회화를 뜻하죠. calcification.
Right. So calcification is a process where calcium builds up inside your body tissue and it causes your tissue to harden.
네, 석회화하는 것을 calcify라고 합니다. 자, 근데 늦게까지 깨어있는 이런 저녁형 인간이 주로 이런 경향이 있다. They have a tendency to do this.
Right. So if someone has a tendency to do something, they'll probably do it. Or if you have a tendency to like something, you will probably like it. So if there's also a tendency for something to happen, then it means that it's likely to happen or it often happens.
Have a tendency to do something. 뭐뭐 하는 경향이 있다가 되겠고요. 보통 이제 늦게까지 잠을 안 자는 경향이 있는 사람들이라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. Here's the headline again. A new study has revealed that people who have a tendency to stay up late are at greater risk of experiencing artery calcification compared to those who wake up early. And that's it for our headlines. 지금까지 뉴스캐스터 Karen Choi와 함께한 헤드라인스였습니다. Well, let's have a closer look at the headlines one by one. Paul?
The employment rate for individuals holding college and graduate school degrees reached nearly 70% in 2022, the highest rate seen in the past 5 years, while the regional gap in employment between metropolitan and non-metropolitan areas narrowed slightly compared to the previous year.
네, 첫 번째 헤드라인인데요. 지난해 대학교 및 대학원 졸업생의 취업률이 70%에 근접하며 최근 5년 내 최고치를 기록한 한편 수도권과 비수도권 사이의 지역별 취업률 격차는 전년 대비 소폭 감소한 것으로 나타났습니다. Tell us more, Paul.
So good news for graduates,
Yeah.
though it should be said it differs by discipline. So if we look at general graduate schools, they had the highest employment rate at 83.1%, followed by vocational schools at 72.9%, then general universities at 66.3%. So apart from colleges of education who were down a little bit, all these post-secondary employment rates were up between somewhere from 0.2 to 4 percentage points year on year. So very good news. When we look at some of the different specialities, for engineering, employment rates was 72.4%. For medicine, 83.1%. That's above average. For humanities, 59.9%. Social sciences, 65.8%. Education, 63.4%. Natural sciences, 67.2%. And art, 68.1%. They were all a little bit below average. Plus, we're seeing this gap between regions, between metropolitan and non-metropolitan areas, narrowing just a little bit. So it's all positive news, generally speaking, but certainly the sciences, medicine, engineering, there's a higher employment rate compared to the humanities.
네. 자, 지금 여러 가지 수치를 말씀을 해주셨는데요. 이제 그 main figures 좀 보게 되면은 작년에 대학교 그리고 대학원 졸업생들의 취업률이 69.6%였습니다. 70% 조금 안 되는 수치였는데 그래도 이게 최근 5년 새에 가장 높은 수준이었다라는 얘기가 되겠고요. 그다음에 이제 수도권과 비수도권 간의 취업률 격차가 줄어들었고요. 또 남성과 여성 간의 취업률도 줄어들었습니다. 그렇지만 공학 계열, 자연 계열, 그리고 인문 계열 사이의 격차는 벌어졌다고 해요. 네. 자, 한번 표현 보도록 하겠습니다. The regional gap has narrowed.
Yes, if there's a gap, there's going to be a space between. So one area will have a higher rate than another area, which will have a lower rate. So a regional gap might be when we're comparing two provinces or two cities. In this case, we're talking about metropolitan areas and non-metropolitan areas, meaning city and not city.
네, 수도권과 비수도권, metropolitan areas and non-metropolitan areas, 그 지역 간 격차, 여기서는 구체적으로 취업률을 말하지만 지역 간 격차를 regional gap라고 할 수 있겠죠. 자, 그 다음에는 이게 이제 줄어들었지만 아주 살짝 줄어들었어요. So it says it narrowed slightly.
Yeah, just a little bit. That's all it means. It's another way of saying a small amount. For example, when we use it to describe a person, we use the term slight, meaning they're quite thin or slim. So it gets the sense of there's not much there. It's a small amount. So when we say slightly, if something rises slightly, decreases slightly, changes slightly, it's just a little bit.
네, slightly는 아주 약간이란 뜻이 있습니다. 실제로 이제 지역 간 취업률 격차가요 0.8%포인트 줄어들었어요. 그래서 줄기는 했지만 not by a lot, by a little bit.
But it's all positive. We're seeing
Yes.
the best results in the past 5 years. Great for graduates.
네, 그렇습니다. 지금 이제 살펴본 이 데이터는요. 교육부와 한국교육개발원이 어제 발표한 2022년 고등교육기관 졸업자 취업 통계조사의 결과입니다. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The employment rate for individuals holding college and graduate school degrees reached nearly 70% in 2022, the highest rate seen in the past 5 years, while the regional gap in employment between metropolitan and non-metropolitan areas narrowed slightly compared to the previous year.
A report from a UK-based think tank has ranked South Korea as the 9th largest economy in the world in 2038, with China projected to claim the top spot, surpassing the US in terms of gross domestic product.
네, 영국의 한 띵크탱크가 최근 보고서를 통해 오는 2038년에 중국이 미국을 제치고 세계 GDP 1위 국가가 될 것으로 내다봤습니다. 한국은 이 순위에서 9위로 전망됐습니다.
First of all, I'd like to send my apologies to Italy because we're the
Yeah,
ones
they've
knocking
been
them out of the
kicked
top
out.
10.
Yes.
It should be said, this is one think tank. This is the Centre for Economics and Business Research, the CEBR in the UK. And they think their forecast is that South Korea is going to become the 9th largest economy in terms of GDP, gross domestic product, in 15 years' time, meaning we'll break into that special top 10 club. And Italy, who are 8th at the moment, might be going down to number 15. The other big news is that the US is not going to be the largest economy in the world, according to them, in 2038. It's going to be China
That's right.
taking the top spot. And also India and Brazil are going to rise. At the moment, India's in 5th place. They think they're going to go up to 3rd. Brazil is in 9th. They think Brazil is going to go up to 8th. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. In terms of Europe, they think the United Kingdom will be the best performing major economy in Europe, projecting it to outgrow the big 4 Eurozone economies of France, Germany, Italy and Spain. It should be said, though, this is a British think tank, which means they might be slightly biased towards the UK.
Possibly. 자, 이게 영국의 경영연구소라고 해요. The Center for Economics and Business Research. 이 CEBR에서 발표한 세계 경제 리그 테이블 2024의 내용입니다. So I have the full list, number 1 to number 10.
Okay.
2038년의 GDP 순위 리스트를 제가 쭉 한번 1위부터 10위까지 읽어보겠습니다. At number 1, we have China, then the US, India, Japan, Germany, the UK, France, Brazil, South Korea, and Canada.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, though, because as we all know, a lot can happen in 15 years.
Yes, that's right.
So this is just a prediction that's not a certainty. But, I mean, we know that Korea has been doing very well and Korea has been growing as a country, and it would be great to be in the top 10.
네, 작년에 발표됐었던 리스트와 이제 올해 발표된 리스트를 좀 비교를 해보면은 이탈리아가 이제 10위권에서 빠져나가게 됐고요. 한국이 포함이 됐습니다. 네, 자 표현 좀 볼게요. This is all projected by the CEBR.
Yeah, when we use it in terms of something that's happening in the future, it's a prediction or it's a forecast. It's what we think is going to happen, what we're saying is going to happen, as opposed to a movie being projected onto a screen,
Yes.
which is a different kind of projection.
네, overhead projector 기억나세요, 선생님? OHP?
I still use them nowadays.
지금도 써요?
Oh, hang on a second. No, hang on. I'm thinking of just the digital overhead projectors as opposed to the actual overhead projector. Yeah, I don't use those anymore.
Yeah, I remember back in university,
Yeah.
the professors would sometimes have the overhead projectors. So there would be that machine in the middle of the classroom, and then they would have the transparent sheets with the writing on it.
Yeah.
Put it on the screen, and it would come up on the board.
Exactly, and then some student would stick their hand in the middle and you get some kind of shadow puppet.
OHP 기억하시는 분들 계실까요? 네. 거기에서 P가 프로젝터예요.
네.
뭔가 이렇게 보여준다라는 뜻이거든요. 자, 근데 여기서 말하는 프로젝트라는 것도 어떻게 보면은 미래를 보여주는, 미래를 전망한다라는 뜻으로 보시면 되겠습니다. 그래서 영국의 경제경영연구소가 이러이러하게 전망을 하고 있다. And China is expected to claim the top spot.
Meaning they'll be number one. When we claim the top spot, that suggests it's some kind of competition. There's some kind of battle or game to get to number one. And in this case, it's a race between countries to be the most successful economically.
Right.
So in this case, it just means China will be number one.
네, claim the top spot. 하나의 표현이라고 보시면 될 것 같은데요. 1위 자리를 차지하다라는 뜻이 되겠습니다. 다시 한번 헤드라인 읽어볼게요. A report from a UK-based think tank has ranked South Korea as the 9th largest economy in the world in 2038, with China projected to claim the top spot, surpassing the US in terms of gross domestic product. Let's take a break.
The Seoul Metropolitan Government has announced that subway and bus services will be temporarily extended from 11 p.m. on New Year's Eve until 1 a.m. the following day, taking into account the New Year's bell tolling ceremony at Boshingak Pavilion in central Seoul.
서울시는 도심 종로구에서 열릴 보신각 제아종 타종 행사를 고려해 오는 31일 밤 11시부터 다음 날인 내년 1월 1일 오전 1시까지 지하철과 버스를 연장 운행한다고 발표했습니다. 와, 벌써 이때가 됐네요. 며칠 남지 않았습니다.
Yeah, I'm going to be asleep though, so I won't be using the extended subway and bus lines.
I see. So tell us more then.
Yes, so basically your final trains will be leaving their first station at 1 a.m. instead of 11, and that means the subways are going to run until about 2 a.m. on Monday. There's going to be an extra 173 trips on lines 1 through to 9. However, do be aware that some stations, there will be some stations where the trains will not be stopping. So, for example, at Cheonggak Station, near the Boshingak Pavilion, from 11 p.m. on Sunday to 1 a.m. on Monday, trains are going to bypass that station because it's going to be a very crowded area. Also, Gwanghwamun Station on line 5, which is close to that area, that's going to be restricted from midnight to 2 a.m. if there is serious crowd congestion. So just be aware that that station may be closed. There won't be trains stopping there. The other thing is we've got buses extending their operations on the 38 routes that are nearby the pavilion. In that area, they're going to be running through to 2 a.m. on Monday, which means everybody can hopefully get home safely and enjoy the new year in peace.
네, 서울시 종로구 보신각 근처 그리고 이제 세종대로 그 일대에서 시내버스가 노선이 많이 늘어납니다. 그 시간대에 38개 노선 연장 운행을 하게 되고 또 지하철 같은 경우도 역시 말씀드린 것처럼 밤 11시부터 새벽 1시까지 연장 운행이 되는데요. 자, 지하철 안전사고를 예방하기 위해서 종각역 같은 경우에는 무정차 통과한다는 거 참고해 주시면 되겠습니다. 자, 그러면은 이제 2023년 12월 31일이다. 우리가 이렇게 생각을 해볼게요. 그러면 그때 어떤 행사가 일어나는 거예요?
Well, we have the traditional bell ringing at Boshingak. I mean, this is something everybody knows. It's televised every year, but there is something new. I thought we were the land of the morning calm. We're now going to be the land of the midnight sun for 2024 because immediately after the bell ringing ceremony, if you're watching on the Boyne Radio, you can actually see a picture of this. We're going to have this fabulous 12-meter radius thingamajig. I'm not quite sure what to call it.
The sun,
It's
the
a midnight sun that's going to be lighting up Sejongdaedo.
Right,
It's going to be.
It's an installment, isn't it? And
It's
it
a
looks
light
beautiful.
display.
Yeah.
It's going to be fantastic. If you're out there wrapped up warm, I'm sure it's going to be a fabulous sight and a great way to start the new year. If, like me, you're tucked up in bed, I'll look at the news on Monday morning.
자, 그러니까요. 2023년 마지막 밤 그 종로구 보신각에서 늘 하던 대로 이제 제아의 종 타종 행사가 열리고 그러고 난 다음에요. 새벽이 아니죠. 1월 1일 0시
네.
이제 새해가 탁 시작되는 그 순간 세종대로에서 아까 우리가 보이는 라디오로 띄워드렸는데 지름 12m가 되는 아주 큰 구형의 인스톨먼트입니다. 이걸 이제 자정의 태양이라고 이름을 붙였어요. 이게 떠오르게 됩니다. 그래서 이것도 아주 멋있는 그런 장면이 펼쳐질 것 같아요. Okay. So let's have a look at the main expressions. The first one is to be temporarily extended.
Means something's made longer for a certain period of time, usually a short period of time if it's temporary.
그래요. 일시적으로 연장이 된다. 지하철과 버스 운행 얘기를 하고 있는 거고요. 그 다음에는 take something into account.
If you take something into account, you think about it, you take it into consideration as you're planning something, you think, okay, that's what that is, therefore that might affect what I'm doing here.
네, 무언가를 고려할 때 take into account라고 합니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The Seoul Metropolitan Government has announced that subway and bus services will be temporarily extended from 11 p.m. on New Year's Eve until 1 a.m. the following day, taking into account the New Year's bell tolling ceremony at Bojingak Pavilion in central Seoul. Now let's move on to the next headline.
Argentina's chronic inflation continues to devalue the nation's currency and has prompted the Central Bank of Argentina to contemplate issuing higher denomination banknotes of up to 50,000 pesos.
아르헨티나의 고물가 현상이 지속되면서 통화 가치가 계속 떨어지자 아르헨티나 중앙은행이 최대 5만 페소에 달하는 신규 고액권 발행을 검토하고 있는 것으로 알려졌습니다. So currently in Argentina, they have the 500 peso note, 200 pesos, and 1,000 pesos.
And also 2,000,
Yeah.
which is quite rare.
But they don't have 20,000 or 50,000 note bills.
Yeah, and we should say because of inflation, 2,000 pesos is $2 US.
Oh no.
So
That's-
that means that because that bill is rare, the bills they're using are basically $1 bills.
Yeah.
They're having to do all their transactions with that. So what the bank wants to do is issue 20,000 and 50,000 peso bills. So that way it'll make it easier to streamline these cash transactions and for individuals to be able to use bigger bills instead of having to cope with all these little bills.
그러니까 현재는 존재하지 않지만 지금 통화 가치가 너무나 많이 떨어져서요. 앞으로 아르헨티나에서 어쩌면은 2만 페소 빌, 또 5만 페소 지폐가 생길 수도 있는 거죠. 그리고 지금 currently Argentina owes money to many countries.
Yeah, it's something like $11.18 million to Brazil, more than 12 million euros to the Spanish Mint, more than $7 million to the China Banknote Printing and Minting Corporation. And the other issue is that even if they do put these new bills into circulation, they're not going to be able to print them and get them out until March next year. This is a really desperate situation for Argentina. We've been following this story all year pretty much, but it's really serious for the citizens who are trying to just spend their cash.
네, 이렇게 새로운 지폐가 발행이 된다라고 해도요. 2만 페소권, 5만 페소권이 내년 한 3월은 돼야 나올 수 있다고 합니다. 자, 표현 볼게요. The first one is chronic.
Yeah, now this term, we often use it with illness.
Yes.
Or with some kind of illness. For example, you might get bronchitis this winter. It happens a lot. What you don't want is chronic bronchitis that lasts for months and months or comes back again and again and again. So if something is chronic, it's continuing, lasting a long time. In this case, what's chronic is inflation. Argentina has not just had a little rise in inflation. Inflation has been going up and up and up and up for months and months and months. It's chronic.
만성적이다라는 뜻으로 우리가 질병 얘기할 때 많이 쓰는 표현 chronic입니다. bronchitis는 기관지염을 말하는 건가요?
I don't know the Korean name for it. I'm sorry,
It's
Sue.
about
it's
your
about your
coughing
your
and
throat
your
and
throat.
coughing. Yes.
기관지염 맞습니다. 자, 이걸 이제 만성적인 게 걸리면 안 좋겠죠, 당연히. 자, 그다음에 contemplate.
I'm going to give you a sound, Sue, which I think sums up the word contemplate.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, it's a thinking process, and it's not a fast, quick decision. It's thinking carefully, slowly over time. It's something that you might sit in an armchair to do or lie in your bed and contemplate your life.
네. 자, 고려하다라는 뜻인데 앞서 우리가 배운 take something into account는 이것을 고려해서 이것의 존재를 고려해서 할까 말까 한다는 것이라면 contemplate라는 것은 여러 가지 선택지 중에서 고려를 하는 것입니다. 자, 그래서 contemplating something 이렇게 표현을 하죠. 이렇게 할까 말까 이게 그 생각하면서 심사숙고하는 것을 말합니다.
Are you contemplating whether you're going to read the headline again?
I am.
Do
Should
it,
I-
Sue. Do it.
Should I read the headline? Yes, I will. Argentina's chronic inflation continues to devalue the nation's currency and has prompted the Central Bank of Argentina to contemplate issuing higher denomination banknotes of up to 50,000 pesos. And here's our final headline.
A carat diamond has been found at an Arkansas state park in the US by a man who initially thought the gem was just a piece of glass.
미국 아켄소의 한 주립공원에서 5캐럿에 가까운 다이아몬드가 발견됐습니다. 최초 발견자인 남성은 처음에 이를 유리 조각인 줄 알았다고 밝혔습니다. 자, 그 아켄소에 있는 이 공원 얘기부터 좀 해야 될 것 같은데요. 다이아몬드를 캐기 위해서 가는 공원이죠?
Yeah, this is the thing. If you're looking for diamonds in a state park, this is the one you want to go to. It's the Crater of Diamonds State Park in Murfreesboro, Arkansas. And Jerry Evans went there. And about 10 minutes after they arrived, he spotted what he thought was a piece of glass a few feet away. And then he took it home and he wondered, is it glass? Or seeing as I'm at the Crater of Diamonds State Park, maybe it's a diamond? He got it identified and it's now become the largest one registered at the park since Labor Day of 2020. Back then, they found a 9.07 carat brown diamond there. This is an incredible park. They've found something like 75,000 diamonds since the park was first established in the early 1900s. So a huge number of diamonds there. I mean, good on Jerry. I'm sure he's feeling very happy at the end of the year that he made that lucky discovery. And I should say that it's not C-A-R-R-O-T when we're talking about diamonds. It's C-A-R-A-T when we
Yes.
talk about the caliber of gold or
네,
diamonds.
그렇죠. 네, 지난 9월에도 한 소녀가 생일날 이 공원에 갔다가 또 희귀한 다이아몬드를 발견하게 됐다라는 뉴스 모닝스페셜에서 전해드린 적 있었죠.
Okay, can you get me a pink diamond, Sue?
I don't know. 이 공원 이름이 Crater of Diamonds State Park, 다이아몬드 분화구 주립공원입니다. 그래서 거기 다이아몬드가 많이 있어요. 그걸 알기 때문에 공원을 갈 때부터 사람들이 이런 다이아몬드 탐지기나 아니면 여러 가지 연장이나 도구를 들고 가서 일부러 여기저기 캐고 다닌다고 합니다. 그런데 이제 발견이 될 수도 있고 안 될 수도 있어요. 근데 지금 이 다이아몬드 같은 경우에는 공원에 들어온 지 10분 만에 그 이름이 뭐였죠? 제리라고.
Jerry
해요?
Evans.
제리 에반스. 제리 에반스가 여자친구랑 같이 이렇게 갔었대요. 10분 만에 이거 유리 조각인가? 뭐지? 했는데 다이아몬드였다. 5 carats. 와우.
Yeah, incredible. You know, my wife's a big fan. She takes her gemstones with her everywhere. She goes to the cafe and drinks coffee with them. She goes and gets her nails done with them. She goes to the cinema with them. You know what she says to me?
What?
It's because diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Oh, I see. Well, you just mentioned gem there,
Yes.
and that means a precious stone, right?
It is, yes. So we're talking about diamonds or rubies or sapphires or topaz or opals or whatever they may be.
That's right.
When we talk about gems, jewels, gemstones, they could be any of these.
자, 보석을요. 영어로는 두 가지로 표현할 수 있는데 gem, G-E-M, 아니면 precious stones.
네.
말 그대로 아주 소중한, 귀중한 돌이란 뜻이죠. 그래서 보석을 그렇게 표현하는 것이 대표적이고 그다음에 initially.
If something happens initially, it means at first. But that suggests that there's going to be some change coming after it. Maybe some kind of banjan, some kind of twist.
Sure.
So, for example, if you've seen The Sixth Sense, initially you think that Bruce Willis is alive. Spoiler
Don't
alert.
spoil it. for
It's been
people that
25
haven't-
years.
Some people might not have watched it. Okay. Initially, 처음에는 이라는 뜻입니다. 그래서 처음에는 유리 조각인 줄 알았지만 거기 공원에요. 이 다이아몬드 진위 여부를 판명해주는 그런 장소들도 다 구비가 돼 있다고 해요. 다이아몬드 캐러 가는 거니까. 가서 딱 검사 받았더니 진짜입니다. 오, 지난 한 3년 동안 발견된 것 중에서 제일 큰데요? 라는 그런 희소식을 들었답니다. We'll have to go to Arkansas sometime.
If you pay for
With
the
our-
flight, Sue, I'm with it. Do you want to go this
Look for
afternoon?
some diamonds.
Yeah, we're off to the Crater of Diamonds for 2023 New Year's Eve.
자, 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. A nearly 5-carat diamond has been found at an Arkansas state park in the US by a man who initially thought the gem was just a piece of glass. And that's it